So, just being inspired by a post I've just seen on LinkedIn by my old mentor Tom about a book called Building the Elite. He recommended it to us when we were on his mentorship, maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I can't remember now. I read it, great book. And but for me, the biggest takeaway is all about special forces and all this sort of, but there's a lot of great stuff on leadership and psychology, and how you got to be prepared for any single moment. And one concept and principle that really I took away from the biggest thing was something called the plateau of resilience. Something I see a lot of, especially more. And one thing that I really, in a lot of people, that they have this. I used to have it myself, and this is why I can relate to it. When I was starting out on this journey, and when I was playing rugby and weightlifting and all these kind of things, was I have to do this to be able to do this. I need this so I can do that. For instance, like pre-workout. Oh, I've got to be able to, if I don't have my pre-workout, I can't train today. I can't lift maximally. Or if I don't wear these socks, I can't train. And people have all these rituals, for instance. I see professional sportsmen, which for me is such a crutch, it's such a weakness. And this is one thing I hate and really dislike about a lot of the self-development world at the moment. All these different protocols and rules and things that people are putting out there. It's all these routines and morning routines and this protocol and these rules. Life just doesn't work by a rule book, and especially I think once you say you build a family, you have kids, you start building businesses, nothing works as clockwork. I don't know how you can have some of these routines, some of these morning routines that take 3 hours or 4 hours just to get going, just be able to start thinking about working. And then I think this is going back to the plateau of resilience, is that this mindset of the special forces that you never know what's going to happen. Your life is so unstable, unstructured, unroutine, because something might happen in an instant. You've got to go. Maybe you just trained like in an hour ago, and then you got to go off. There's some shooting, and you got to get going, get your boots on, get your backpack on, and then you got to get going. So. It's when people say, Adam, I just trained legs, or I trained chest 3 days ago. I can't do this workout. I can't do this boot camp. Or I'm like, what? In an instant, life in extreme and urgent situations throws things at you that you do not have control of. You might have just trained your legs and you got to go sprint. You might have to go carry something. You might have to go run for something. And what, you're going to make an excuse? Maybe your life's on the line. Maybe you're in danger. But you're going to make an excuse that because you just trained your legs, I can't run? Are you kidding me? Or you can't lift something up, or you can't whatever? For me, this whole concept of rules and protocols is making people more fragile, more weaker mentally. I don't think it's a healthy mindset. People say, oh, structure is freedom. It gives you freedom. Yeah, to a certain extent, but you've also got to be prepared for the worst. And we've all been through COVID, that we had all our 2020, we had our goals set out, we had all these plans, we had all this, and then bam, everything thrown out the window. So what? And then so if you really live, then that would crush a lot of people. COVID crushed many people. The majority of people, 80% of people, were crushed by it because I have to stay at home and I've got no purpose and I can't go out and walk and I'm going to gain weight and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, because everything got knocked out the window. This is why, for me, the opposite. The last, especially 3-4 years, and especially when I read the book, that started the whole thought process. But removing all these routines, I used to, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, I used to think like, I can't do this. If I don't, do this exercise, I can't do that. If I don't follow the plan, I'm never going to get bigger and stronger. If I don't do this, blah, 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 blah. And all these things are limiting beliefs. They're putting a cap on what you think you can do. They make you actually weaker. They make you less resilient. And, for all of you out there who, I've got to drink this, I've got to do that to be able to, I've got to eat like this, and blah, 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 this amount of macros, this amount of calories. For me, all these hard things, set rules and set things, they're just limits. And I think it's making people softer, it's making people less adaptable, less be able to just cope with change, which is a common thing, Life is always changing. Sometimes yesterday I trained at 6:30 in the morning. Today I trained at 10 o'clock in the morning. I've trained at 10 o'clock at night sometimes. It doesn't matter. Just get it done. Just do the work. Do the training, do the work, do the emails, whatever it is. So many people are like, look, I used to think it was like, right, 3 hours, the optimal time, my testosterone is highest 3 hours after training according to this research paper. So I'm gonna make sure I train 3 hours and then 10 hours after I wake up. So about 9 o'clock, it's ridiculous. These are such a controlled environments and make you generally mentally weaker. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Because life throws so many curveballs. There's always changes and instabilities and disasters and whatever else is going on. But it's how quickly you bounce back. You all love watching these Rocky films and, superhero films. And what is it all about? They all get knocked down and get straight back up again. So many people, though, don't practice what they preach, don't walk the walk. And they end up having to have this drama, this minor thing, and it completely rocks them. And then they're talking about it, thinking about it their whole lot, rest of the day, rest of the week, rest of the month, rest of the year sometimes, or years. Don't let that be you. Don't let it be you. So what? Just crack on. Get on with the next thing. Shit happens in life, excuse my French. But this is the reality of it, and I think, now in this day and age, we've got to get over all this stuff. We're so looking for all these protocols. For me, people like Andrew Huberman, sure, super knowledgeable guy, but you try and implement any of his routines and stuff like this, it's just not realistic, and especially if you've got families and all this type of thing, businesses you've got to run, people you've got to lead, if you're within a business, whatever it is, there's always, people rely on you, you're accountable, so, and things change all the time, get calls at 10 o'clock at night, get woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning by my daughter. That doesn't mean I'm not going to work the next day. I remember, saying to some of my colleagues before, I would train without any sleep the next day. And they're like, how? But you didn't have 8 hours sleep. How are you even training? Like, your body needs to recover. That's when toxins come out of the brain and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so what? I've got to get up and work. I said to some people, I'm going to train the next day with them. I'm going to train the next day with them. No matter if I slept or didn't sleep, it's not their problem. You know what I mean? And people, quitting becomes a habit, or excuses become a habit as well. Lying becomes a habit. The more you do it, the more you start believing it, and it keeps rolling. It's a downward spiral. It's a continuous thing. So get over all this stuff. Sometimes, I'm, say doing dumbbell presses. I grab a 15 kilo and I grab a 20 kilo by accident. Like, screw it, I'll use them. Doesn't matter. Life ain't perfect. Sometimes not always going to be in balance and equal. Sometimes I put more plates on one side of the bar than the other side. So what? Deal with it, Or, you know what I mean? It's having this mentality and it's a mindset. And this is where, whether it's people in my generation, old generation, younger generation, whatever, it's there. This mindset of believing that, I've got to have this structure, I've got to have this stability, I need this. Screw all of that, honestly. Screw all of it, forget all of it. Start being, because it's only making you weaker. It's more stress, more things to think about. I've got to take 600 milligrams of magnesium once with dinner, then another one with pre-bed, 22 minutes before, blah, 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 blah. It's all nonsense. At the end of the day, I've been through it all. Well, most of it. I can't say I've been through everything, but I've been through that. I've had that mindset where, I've got to take the supplements and this regime and these protocols. Otherwise, I can't do anything. I can't. Okay, I'm gonna take the day off. I didn't have my breakfast this morning. Or fasting. I broke it. I only did 15 hours today. That's it. Screw. I hate fasting. I'm not gonna do this anymore. Do your best. Start changing your mindset big time on these sort of things, and you become a more resilient person. And I think, sure, your performance is not going to be that extra 10 or 20% better. It might suffer a little bit. So what? When are you having to demonstrate your strength nowadays? Unless you're competing in some sort of sports or activities or these type of things, you're not. But what most people should be doing more of is building their strength, their character, their mindset. Work on building that. your endurance, your ability to withstand stress and pressure. Are you building it? Probably not. Are you trying to just max out and show everyone how strong you are right now? Sure, some people, but you don't need to. It's a waste of time, waste of energy. It takes you long to recover afterwards. You know, as a lot of the Russian and Eastern philosophy would talk about, train light, compete heavy. You know, save all that nervous neural energy for when you actually need it, not wasting it every single day, you know, or every single week. Save it up for 4 years, 8 years, whatever it needs to be, whether it's an Olympic cycle. Not always just throwing it out there because you're insecure or you're trying to prove to other people what you can do. You don't need to. Build. It's a lifetime you're building for. Build your wealth, build your finances, build your physicality, build your mindset. It all takes time. It's long-term thinking, not short-term thinking. So, you know, with all of this at the end of the day, is have some less routines. Try and say, you know, there's a good book I recommended to someone, you know who you are, but this is by Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I think it's a good book, you know. I've read it a couple of times, and sometimes when I get down a rabbit hole of trying to structure everything too much, I read it and I'm like, screw it, because it's actually just making me weaker, all this stuff, and more vulnerable. It's inhibiting my growth. It's inhibiting my creativity rather than actually developing it and building it and allowing that freedom sometimes just to have an empty schedule and be like, right, what do I feel like doing? What am I going to do today? You know, train at different times, do your work at different times a day. The main thing is getting it done. Get it done. So what's the optimal time to train? Whenever you can get it in. You know, and as you get older and you get busier and everything else, it's all about just getting it in. It's not about like, oh, I need to have the best performance. That was when I was in my 20s and 30s, forget about it. You know, and actually if you're doing something with your life, then sure. But otherwise, you just get it in, you get it done. You know, focus for that amount of time and get on with the rest of your day. Okay? So look, I hope this nugget, a 12-minute nugget, was useful, and you know, try and adopt some of these practices into your routines and get rid of the routines, yeah, and build a more resilient mindset, because you know, life is a puzzle, it's a maze, it's a jungle. Yeah, you never know what's around the next corner, and you've got to be robust and tough and strong. Not saying that I am. Anyone who knows me knows, you know, I'm not that tough, but I'm working on it. You know, physically, you know, I used to lift all the heavy weights, but not anymore. Now, it's just about trying to help and develop other people, whether it's my family or the people I'm working with. Okay? So look, have a great rest of the day, and we'll chat soon. Unstructure yourself, unroutine yourself. Wake up and not know what you're doing today. Yep.